You step outside in February, right? The wind smacks your face, your teeth start doing that uncontrollable chatter thing, and you immediately scramble back inside to crank the thermostat. We absolutely hate being cold, despise it. And honestly, we have every biological right to. Because about 70,000 years ago, the cold almost wiped us completely off the map. Look, we usually picture Ice Age cavemen as these beefy, invincible guys wrestling woolly mammoths in the snow. The reality was a lot closer to a horror movie. Following a massive volcanic winter that choked out the sun, global temperatures just plummeted. The human race didn't just have a hard time, we almost got deleted. Geneticists looking at our DNA realized that our population shrank to maybe a few thousand breeding individuals. Think about that for a second. We were infinitely more endangered than giant pandas are today. So how did your great-great-great-grandfather survive when the rivers turned to solid concrete? Well, they didn't just huddle around campfires and hope for the best. Their bodies actually panicked and mutated. We grew this bizarre stuff called brown fat. Now, this isn't like normal white fat that just sits around your waistline making your jeans tight. Brown fat is basically an internal biological space heater. It's packed with mitochondria, and it burns calories for one specific reason: to generate pure heat. Your ancestors were walking, breathing furnaces. If they hadn't developed this biological hack, hypothermia would have claimed the entire species. But keeping the engine running required fuel. And that brings us to the food situation, or, the total lack of it. When the plants die under sheets of ice and the animal herds thin out, you can't exactly afford to be a picky eater. Archaeologists have dug up bones from the deep freeze that tell a pretty gruesome, desperate story. Our ancestors were actively hunting down carcasses left behind by lions, using heavy rocks to smash open the thick leg bones just to suck out the raw, gray marrow hiding inside. They were burying chunks of meat in the permafrost, letting it sit there for months, and then eating it after it had fermented and half-rotted. And yeah, when things got unimaginably bleak, they ate each other. We found human bones from the glacial periods with clear, deliberate butchery marks on them. They were cracked open for marrow exactly like deer bones. It wasn't some evil, villainous movie plot. It was just brutal, raw math. You get calories in or your kids freeze to death. The morality of the modern world doesn't exist when the temperature drops to 40 below. But perhaps the craziest survival trick wasn't a biological mutation, and it wasn't a desperate diet. It was a tiny piece of literal garbage. A tiny sliver of carved bone with a hole poked in one end. The eyed needle. I know, sewing sounds incredibly boring, but the bone needle is arguably one of the most dangerous, powerful weapons humanity ever invented. Before the needle, humans just draped heavy, awkward animal skins over their shoulders like terrible ponchos. But in the absolute depths of an ice age, a draped pelt won't save you. The wind gets in, the heat escapes. You freeze. The needle allowed humans to create bespoke, airtight, tailored layers. Since we lost our own fur a million years prior, we used a bone tool to literally sew ourselves into the exact evolutionary advantages of the predators we had just killed. We stole the wolf's coat. We took the bear's skin. We manufactured a second skin that allowed us to march straight into the blizzards that were killing everything else. We are the only animal on the planet that does stuff like this. Every other creature just died or slowly waited millions of years for evolution to give them thicker fur. We didn't have time to wait for evolution. We hacked our own biology. We ate the absolute unimaginable, and we wore the faces of apex predators just to see tomorrow. So, next time you're sitting in your car shivering, waiting for the heater to finally kick on, just remember the absolute monsters whose DNA is currently running through your veins. You were built to survive the end of the world.